Hello, welcome to the NEPA for BEAD Overview and FAQ webinar, hosted by the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, the Wisconsin State Historic Preservation Office, and the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. These recordings will cover NEPA requirements for BEAD awardees, basic state-level permitting requirements, and frequently asked questions related to NEPA and environmental permitting. For starters, let's cover a summary of the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, relative to the Broadband Equity, Access, and Deployment Program, or BEAD. What is and is not NEPA? The National Environmental Policy Act is a federal law that analyzes potential environmental impacts. It's required per the BEAD General Terms and Conditions and the BEAD Notice of Funding Opportunity. NEPA is a review process that ties together many federal requirements into a single step. NEPA is not a permit from a federal, state, or local agencies. It's a separate process. NEPA compliance does not equate to a permit approval. NEPA is also not a state-level process. NEPA compliant BEAD projects are still subject to state laws and requirements. Lastly, NEPA is not optional. Awardees must receive NEPA decision documents and adhere to any additional specific award conditions that come from completed NEPA reviews. An example of a NEPA decision document includes categorical exclusion determinations, or CAT-X's. This is an approximate timeline that is subject to change. The Wisconsin Broadband Office will build projects based on the awarded project units to each BEAD applicant. Once these projects are defined, the Broadband Office can notify awardees to begin NEPA documents, which may take about 30 days. NEPA reviews may start as early as June 2025. The BEAD final proposal is due to NTIA in July of 2025. Following final proposal approval, awardees will sign grant agreements and project implementation can begin if NTIA delivers the required NEPA decision documents, as mentioned on the previous slide. It's important to note that grant agreement execution can occur before NEPA decision documents, but project implementation cannot start until a NEPA decision document is received from NTIA. Discuss projects and project areas. A project will be a collection of awarded project units within proximity to each other. The Commission will evaluate the awarded project units to each subgrantee and make projects from said project units. NEPA reviews occur on the BEAD project level, not at the project unit level. Every BEAD project will undergo a NEPA review. A project area is what's reviewed for NEPA. The project area is the construction space needed to complete the awarded project. It may include total construction footprint, any groundbreaking, the proposed route and facilities, associated existing facilities and connections, temporary and permanent access roads outside of right-of-ways, and/or laydown or preparation areas. This is an example of what a project area may look like. Project maps should be more complex than this example. The purpose of this slide is to illustrate all the areas that shall be considered in the environmental review. It's more than just the route. NTIA has provided the following guidance for what is required for every project. According to NTIA, every project will need a project description, which we will dive into on the next slide, ground level and aerial photos of proposed project areas, plan drawings or maps, Federal Emergency Management Agency or FEMA floodplain map with the overlain project, a wetlands map from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service or USFWS National Wetlands Inventory with the overlain project, a Section 106 State Historic Preservation Office consultation, and a Section 7 Information for Planning and Consultation or IPAC review. Note that the Commission NEPA specialist will use submitted information from BEAD awardees to lead Section 106 and Section 7 consultations to fulfill requirements for the National Historic Preservation Act and the Endangered Species Act. Also note that Tribal Historic Preservation Officer consultation will occur following the final proposal approval by NTIA in the fall of 2025. The Commission will assist NTIA in facilitating requested government-to-government consultations between the federal government and tribes. Project description is a summary document that captures specific details about the proposed project. The project description is a key document to BEAD NEPA reviews. It includes the following: what is being constructed, a description of where the project is proposed, such as an address, township range and section, or latitude and longitude, as well as a physical description of the site or route and the surrounding area. For example, developed land versus open space. Are there adjacent natural resources such as rivers, wetlands, or forests? And are there any protected lands? The project description also includes project metrics, for example, dimensions, areas, distances, depths, thicknesses, as applicable, a detailed description of how the project will be implemented, including necessary ground disturbance, connected actions, pre-construction preparations, and follow-up activities following the completion of construction. Also, any mitigation actions the subgrantee knows will need to occur to accomplish the project, and a maintenance or decommissioning plan regarding the construction project if applicable. Finally, an acknowledgement of any known permits the subgrantee will need to acquire prior to beginning project implementation. Furthermore, there are two additional documents that are considered part of the project description. First, a project map showing project boundaries, sites, routes, and activities highlighted and clearly marked. There is no set or required scale, but it should be easy to distinguish the project area. Next, ground level photos. The number of photos needed to summarize the route, key areas of interest, and the topography of the project area. There are many moving parts to the NEPA review for BEAD. This slide attempts to simplify who does what for each NEPA review. First, the awardee will submit a screening tool and other required NEPA documents to the PSC. The PSC may request additional information to assist in the NEPA review process. More information on the screening tool and submission methods to the PSC is forthcoming. The awardee will also begin acquiring permits from state and federal agencies as necessary. After receiving completed materials, the PSC will begin the Section 7 and Section 106 consultations with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Wisconsin State Historic Preservation Office. Furthermore, the PSC will provide completed materials, including evidence of completed consultations, to NTIA on behalf of the awardee. Also, the PSC will communicate with state and federal agencies regarding specific projects that may require permits. These contacts would not be a part of the NEPA review, but would be used to facilitate faster permitting for BEAD awardees. Lastly, after receiving the project description from PSC, NTIA will provide a Notice of Organizations from the Tower Construction Notification System to the PSC. The Notice of Organizations contains a list of tribes who may record interest within the project area. The PSC will contact these tribes to fulfill its Section 106 consultation obligations. Finally, after all consultations are complete, all required materials are submitted to NTIA and environmental impacts are reviewed. NTIA will distribute decision documents to the PSC, who will then provide the documents to the awardee. The required consultation processes that the PSC will follow are relatively straightforward. Here is a screenshot of the Endangered Species Act Section 7 consultation process. First, awardees will submit their project materials to the PSC. PSC staff will then go to the Information for Planning and Consultation or IPAC website and complete a determination key for each project. After submitting the determination key, a letter from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service will be generated. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has 30 days to review and make any letter edits. If there are no species that are given a may affect or not likely to adversely affect designation, the Section 7 consultation is complete. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service may change a may affect designation or a not likely to adversely affect designation to a no effect designation within the 30-day waiting period. After the 30-day waiting period, PSC staff uploads the Section 7 consultation letter to the NTIA NEPA tool as part of the compliance documents for BEAD. If a project has a may affect determination upon submittal, a formal consultation will be required. PSC will lead the consultation per our non-federal designation. The consultation may take 135 days to complete. If the consultation reaches this final box, there are additional actions that the PSC will follow per the non-federal designation memo. The non-federal designation memo states that some BEAD-related actions will have no effect on endangered species. This is an efficiency that NTIA introduced to streamline Section 7 consultations. The PSC has worked closely with the Wisconsin State Historic Preservation Office to develop procedures to tackle Section 106 consultations. These procedures follow the program comment for communication projects. To summarize how each consultation will begin, PSC staff will complete an initial historic property screening. PSC staff will then complete a historic property checklist and send reviewed projects to the PSC's Historic Preservation Officer. PSC staff will state one of the following for each project. The project is not anticipated to encounter historic properties, the project will encounter historic properties, or the project requires further determination from the Historic Preservation Officer. One part of the NEPA review is determining if each project can receive a categorical exclusion determination. The PSC will accomplish this by reviewing the awardee's submitted NEPA materials and comparing the project actions against the 47 categorical exclusions for BEAD and the 13 extraordinary circumstances. Extraordinary circumstances are factors or circumstances that indicate a normally categorically excluded action may have a significant effect. For example, one extraordinary circumstance is a proposed action may adversely impact protected migratory birds or their habitats. If a project were to propose trenching for fiber optic cable through sensitive piping plover habitat, while construction actions fit into a categorical exclusion, the piping plover is a protected migratory bird. Therefore, the project could not receive a categorical exclusion determination. If a BEAD project fits into at least one categorical exclusion and no extraordinary circumstances are applicable, the project is likely to receive a categorical exclusion determination from NTIA. This is a partial list of the various permitting agencies for BEAD projects. We will hear from both the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources and the Wisconsin Department of Transportation in this webinar.